Diaries of a Madman. By What Must I Do? Chapter 203, Part 2 of 2. You're right where you need to be, the guard said. He took a few steps closer, so he was also on the teleport pad. Then his horn lit up and we appeared in a roped-off corner of a large common area. A few off-duty guards looked up when we arrived and their eyes widened. Whispers spread across the room as our guide led the way further in. Acknowledging the peasants was beneath me, of course, so I dutifully ignored them. Our guide didn't have to take us far. The water elemental in question was in an office attached to the common area. She turned pink and bowed when she saw me. "Welcome to the fort, my lady," Waterfall said. "There's no real need to pay obeisance to me, you know," I said. "It's nice to see you again. How are things going here?" She stood back up to show off her smile. "Our progress in studying the objects Jonathan provides us is going well. Our progress in dealing with the lingering spirits on the surface is mostly finished. The progress below, in the bunker proper, has been slow. Unfortunately, there's nothing any of us can really do to help Zecora. I wonder if she's considered taking on an apprentice. I'll ask her next time I see her. Speaking of Zecora, I need to pick something up from her workshop, but I don't know the way. Can you point us in the right direction?" "I'd be happy to guide you myself," she replied. "It's not a very long walk. This fortress is far too large for all the researchers and soldiers we have on site, so everything is pretty close together despite the place being so huge. Then lead the way, if you'd be so kind. Follow me, my lady." With that, Waterfall led the way out. We went from the common room to a long hallway that led so far into the distance that the curve of the fortress blocked our vision. "Princess Gilda would probably appreciate it if you visited, too. Her lab is on the way." "She has a lab here?" I ask. Apparently she wanted to spend her time before the pageant learning more about nanomachines, so she asked if she could set up a lab to study us and Jonathan. None of us saw any harm in it, so we allowed it. "We can stop by to say hi on the way out, I guess." I figured she would be spending more time trying to get her university together, but whatever. The upside of being royalty is that she can easily get all the support she might need, even without proper preparations, Kot said. "That's not necessarily true for the youngest princess of the warlike race when she wants to build an institute of learning. From my understanding, Gilda's influence is relatively weak due to her status as an eccentric who actually likes learning. Without proper planning, getting a university running might be difficult, time-consuming, and might even require hiring teachers from outside. That would be the worst-case scenario." "What's wrong with that?" the mayor from the tower asked. "We've had a few griffins working in the tower before and none had problems learning from us. The griffins that come to Equestria are usually very different from the griffins who don't," I said. "I can only imagine griffins reacting poorly to a university being funded by royalty having a staff made up solely of ponies. Their pride would take a huge hit and they'd have issues recruiting students. It's not a problem to have some teachers of other races, but if most of them are, that wouldn't be viable." "Our Lady is right," Kot said. "They wouldn't take kindly to learning from ponies in their own country. But surely griffin teachers would flock to a university with royal backing." "Maybe. But that's leaving up to chance what could instead be taken care of by preparation. I guess her university isn't really my concern, though. I'm sure she'll manage. If not, she can ask for my help." "Do you think water elementals could be teachers?" Waterfall asked. "I was hoping that was the kind of role the water elementals would take after everything is said and done," I replied. "I heard Flo spread the knowledge from the laptop around. That means all of you know basically everything humanity knew. I feel like using that knowledge to teach and guide the mortal races is pretty close to what you were originally designed to do. The main difference is that now you won't be acting as gods." I also think that might be a good role for us," Waterfall said. "It would not do for us to recreate all of this technology ourselves. The mortal races must be allowed to live their own lives, building what they wish where they wish it. Our role should no longer be ruling but guiding. I heard you were founding a university of your own, my lady. Would you allow a water elemental to teach there? Yes. I'm also founding a town around the university. Having a few water elementals there would be a good thing, I think. It's going to be a town with a lot of different races, so you guys could help keep the peace. I'll bring it up with my sisters, then, Waterfall said with a nod. As much as I'd love to volunteer, it's better to discuss these things first. Okay, we've decided. Nayat and I will help your town. That was fast. I guess it makes sense, given that they're all connected now. Wonderful. I'm not sure exactly when construction will begin, but Flo will keep you informed. Good timing, Waterfall said, slowing to a stop. This is Zecora's workshop. She pushed the door open and slid back. Caught, you first, I said. Just in case there's a trap. Caught thought nothing of my innocuous command and went inside. Nothing happened to her, so the mare and I followed. As expected, most of Zecora's workshop was taken up by alchemical equipment. The rest was taken up by alchemical reagents. They were all very organized, so finding the horns we were looking for was easy. Soon enough, the mare was looking over 10 different horns, trying to decide which to pick. So, where exactly did these come from? She asked as she fitted one of the horns to the nub on her forehead. You mentioned the assault on the bunker, but the sapient nanomachines that lived here protected this place from all manner of interference. One of the things it could do was claim the bodies of those that attacked, destroying their minds in the process. So it gathered together a bunch of ponies that attacked and then began breeding them. Since food was never an issue and they couldn't die of old age due to the nanites, the population rapidly grew. Then we swept through and killed most of them over the course of 2 days. Since useful reagents like alicorn and dragon bones are hard to come by, we made sure to loot what we could from the bodies. I see. I'd like this one. She picked the one with the same color as the rest of her stub. It could be reattached without being too noticeable. Then let's put the others back and leave before more people try to talk to me, I said. Cot was already cleaning up our very small mess, so I probably didn't need to give the order. Moments later, we were back out in the hall. Cot had the mare's new horn in a pocket. So, our next stop is the princess's workshop. Waterfall asked as she started sliding back the way we came. Yes, I said. I didn't really want to deal with Princess Gilda at the moment, but she might be a little peeved if she found out I stopped by and didn't say anything. Well, here we are, Waterfall replied, sliding to a stop in front of the door right next to Zecora's room. Her knock on the door sounded strangely solid for someone who appeared to be made out of water. Instead of waiting for a reply, she opened the door just a crack and slid her upper body through. A moment later, she slipped back out. You may enter. She opened the door the rest of the way and waved me through. The others stayed out in the hall for some reason. That was fine by me, because I really didn't want to stay long. When I walked in, I saw several griffins poking through produce, gems, and potted plants. The princess was among them, but she noticed me enter and walked over immediately. Welcome, Nav. Would you like a quick tour? Not really, but if you wouldn't mind. I thought it would be a good idea to learn more about what's actually going on here. To be honest, I thought you might be using this place to try to reverse engineer some of the artifacts. When you first began teaching me human knowledge from your laptop, you told me something that didn't honestly click until I began seeing the first few artifacts that were pulled out. We don't even have the tools needed to make the tools needed to repair the technology the humans had. We're so many technological generations behind that as far as we're concerned, those devices might as well be magical artifacts. The only things I even recognized were those you showed me pictures of, or things that weren't technological in nature. We're going to have to start from scratch and work our way forwards. The shortcut your knowledge grants us will be enough. But that does not mean the zone has nothing of value for us. Rare are the crops that grow in the cold north. With the farming methods you've provided, we did increase our yields, but having crops that were built from the ground up to be resistant to cold will change everything for us, and for our northerly neighbors in the Crystal Empire. And Jonathan just gave that to you? I ask. I assumed he was hoarding most of his haul for humanity. I used logic against him, Gilda proudly replied, holding a claw to her chest. Since all of the living races are technically human creations, that means the humans wouldn't want us to die off, and in fact would prefer it if we prosper so we can more easily defeat discord. To that end, I posited, it would be better to give us at least the means with which to prosper. All I asked for were seeds, not for him to come and build us an entire nation-sustaining farm. After a few seconds of thinking, he muttered something about coming to a consensus, and then spat out a pack of seeds infused with nanites. Apparently the first batch will grow instantly, but after that, we'll have to grow them ourselves. This over here is the final product. She led me to a small row of potted plants. Are those Brussels sprouts? I ask. Oh, you know them, she asked, seeming fairly shocked. So these were a human crop? Yeah. You know, I thought ponies had Brussels sprouts? Maybe not. Well, whatever. I'm sure Jonathan's done all kinds of modifications to these, anyway. It looks like you also have onions in the list of samples. Are you growing those, too? Oh ho, so Jonathan truly must have modified them, Gilda said. Behold. She reached out to one of the plants and ripped it out of the pot, roots and all. That's when I saw that onions were dangling at the ends of said roots. Isn't that neat? I said, reaching over to grab one. They were some fairly hefty red onions. I know ponies have these, or at least they have golden onions. But I've never seen them grow on the end of Brussels sprouts. Jonathan's going to be very useful, I see. I let the onion drop back down and Gilda shoved the whole thing back in the pot. This will help lower food costs, Gilda said. And when those are lowered, Griffins will be able to spend more money on other things, like technology. That's correct, I said. But that means you need to make them want to buy technology. When I was in Griffiths the last time, all the shopkeepers and business owners I ran into had nothing but nice things to say about you, because of how much tech you've brought to them. That right there is your ticket. If you can market your products to the shop owners and sell things to them, they'll do the job of convincing all the commoners for you. That was, more or less my plan, she said. I was hoping that giving things to the shop owners would help, but just giving things away isn't enough. You need to market your product, not just sell it. But that's something we can talk about later. I'd like to know the story behind those gems they're playing with. I can understand needing crops, but why do you need those? There's an overabundance of magic in Equestria that leads to a variety of interesting effects, Gilda said. One of those effects is that many of the gems they find are already naturally cut, at least to an acceptable degree. However, most of the gems we find in our nation are uncut and rough. We knew beautiful gems were possible, but we assumed that without magic, they were unattainable. But the gems that Jonathan provided us with were cut from rough gems. It's astounding. If a technique like this can travel to Griffiths, the mountains and mountains of useless rocks we have can be turned into gold. Oh, gem cutting, I said with a nod. Humans had to use tools to dig their gems out of the ground. Then they had to cut them by hand to make them beautiful. Yeah, that'll definitely make bank. So you know of gem cutting, too, Gilda slowly said. I truly wish I had brought a list of questions when I visited all those years ago. There are a number of things I'm sure a human could definitely help fix in our kingdom, but without knowledge of what to even ask, it's hard to make much progress. Now that I'm finally beginning to feel the sparks of ambition for the first time in a long time, I'm very grateful that you didn't, I said. Because now I can implement all of those awesome human ideas in the private market, take control of the economy of the entire world, and rule from the shadows like the introvert I am. Well, as long as you promise to give the Griffins favorable deals, I'm okay with that. Oh, Jonathan gave us an explanation of the gem cutting and showed us all how it's done, but he didn't use any tools and his explanation was a little wanting. Can I ask you to provide more instructions later? Yes, I can do that. Or my Flow brand printer can, at least. Hey, if you're still looking for other types of crops you could plant, have you considered mushrooms? Mushrooms are not an option, she immediately replied. Griffins can't stand them. The texture is just, ugh. Is it Griffins who can't stand them or just you? Almost all Griffins, one of the other researchers replied. It's not something most other races know, but eating mushrooms with a beak just feels. Several of the researchers shivered a little. That's just how it is, Gilda said with a shrug. Some weirdos are fine with them, but we don't talk about those people. One of the researchers standing near the corner sighed and hung his head. The others glared at him. Well, it is how it is or whatever, I said. You know, all of those rude whispers about you would disappear if any of your people saw you like this. You even risked your life to help us take this place. You need to make sure people find out about this when you go home, understand? No more hiding in your workshop. Says the human who's talking about ruling from the shadows. Besides, you needn't worry. My brother has already published that I helped sponsor and led the team that finally unraveled the mysteries of the dangerous zone of alienation. The leading part is mostly there as propaganda, of course, but it would be impossible to tell everyone that Griffin royalty was following the orders of an equestrian noble. Understandable. So, what's he doing to make sure everyone understands what a big deal conquering the zone is? Most people have never even heard of it, to my understanding. It's apparently different in our country, Gilda said. That's how I was able to find information, as well as a guide. That said, most Griffins only ever heard of it through rumors and stories and no one knew anything concrete. But the fact that one of their princesses was able to finally bring truth to those rumors and stories is fairly important, especially since it involved so much fighting. I highly doubt I'll be known as a princess of battle, but my days of being the forgotten royal are over. Good. And, I leaned in closer, so hopefully only she would hear. Don't forget how scared you were when we got here. Remember that feeling and stay humble. I am absolutely in no hurry to repeat this experience, I assure you, she said, looking away with a blush. And please, don't get so close. K. I pulled back. So, do you have any other fun projects while you're here? I've been helping coordinate research results between the races gathered here, Gilda said. The water elementals have been doing most of the work, but again, as royalty. You had to be involved in some kind of leadership, right? I said. So far, I've seen ponies, griffins, and changelings. Is there anyone else represented here? There's a contingent of minotaurs on the way, Gilda said. Princess Celestia has asked that I advertise our ongoing efforts at the pageant to see if any other races are interested in sending support. But to be honest, I feel like the things we've discovered should be kept, if not secret, then secure. I was hesitant to even allow the changelings access. They did nothing to help us pacify the place. Why should they get any benefits? Violence and strife will strike this world wherever there is want and greed, I said. And keeping something from your neighbor instead of sharing is one of the best ways of invoking greed. If we don't share this knowledge, we risk causing conflict, which gives power to a certain evil demon I'm trying to banish. To that end, spreading certain technologies is good because it improves everyone's life, reduces everyone's feelings of envy, and makes the world a better place. Besides, saying we should keep the secrets of the zone from the changelings because they did nothing to earn it is the same as saying we should keep this technology from the rest of the griffins because they didn't earn it. You and your 5 guards were the only griffins who were here, after all. I suppose. Anyway, part of coordinating things is getting to look at all the artifacts that are uncovered. I'd love a chance to look over a batch of goods with you. Having live human commentary would be invaluable for studying everything. You're right, I said. Luna took me to one of the warehouses earlier today and I helped give the guards there a few reams of notes about items of interest. I definitely don't know everything, but two people who do know everything live in my head. Whenever I have a full free day, I plan to spend it here, possibly even delving into the bunker itself. Tisk, lucky Luna, Gilda muttered. That's probably the first time anyone's ever called her lucky. Anyway, I don't mean to take up too much of your time. I certainly don't mind giving it, but at this point, we both have important business to be doing. So I'll see you tonight, Nav. Apparently there's going to be some kind of celebration, so look forward to it, I said. Celestia's making me a countess for my deeds and Doppel wants to do something for it. Well, congratulations. I guess this will be the second night of celebrations in a row. Do keep one thing in mind as you leave, though. Don't think you own Celestia just because she has an elemental in her. If you aren't careful, she'll slip a leash right back around that neck of yours. This countess business is likely part of it. A lot of people want to slide a leash around my neck. I only intend to wag my tail for the right offer. But I'll definitely keep it in mind. See you, princess. And with that, I finally went back to the hall. Kot was just waiting to latch herself to me, of course. The stupid horn in her pocket jammed itself in my side, which hurt a lot more than it should have. Kot, can you be less, you? I have no experience with such matters, my lady, Kot said. I'm afraid I've only ever been, me. I sure do wish I had someone normal to tell you to compare yourself to, but... My lady, what's with that pitying look? I'm sorry, Kot. I guess you never really stood a chance, hey. She blinked a few times, probably feeling confused and insulted. Alas. Waterfall, would you kindly lead the way back to the surface? Are you sure you don't want to see anything else? She asked. If I had time to do all the things I wanted to do, yes. Actually, that's a lie. I'd spend it all sleeping, playing games, and letting Doppel do things to me. I do plan on coming back here later to look around more, though. I never really expected the fort around the bunker to turn into a research center. Now I'm glad we didn't just torch it along with everything else. With that, the blob of water started leading the way. It would be impossible without the support of Celestia and those valuable teleportation rings, Waterfall said. All of the progress you see here is thanks to you, my lady. We pay no obeisance to your rank, only to you and your accomplishments. Really? I kinda thought Luna was the main character of the bunker assault. Or maybe Aqua, since I was merely her flesh puppet. Didn't she take care of most of the problems for us? Luna's not capable of being the main character, Kot said. She's way too messed up in the head. She follows you around like a lost puppy, my lady. Without you, there would be no controlling her. Without me and my human pheromones, she might not have lost her mind as hard. Although given what I know about her history, that might be true. In that case, that means my accomplishment is basically nothing more than being a scout for good talent. Though again, scouting Luna was Aqua's accomplishment. You seem to disregard your own leadership, for some reason, Waterfall said. Whose choices led us all safely through the zone? As I recall, those choices were yours. They were, Kot said, patting my arm. Sure, I guess. For some reason, that made all three of the girls giggle at me. The pony guard still tagging along was smart enough to know his place. The fort has definitely been lively, Waterfall said when they were done mocking me. Celestia has sent a few public officials here to give them more of a perspective on what an accomplishment conquering the zone was. Their reactions are always worth having to deal with their initial arrogance. Yet, a lot of ponies are just like that, I said. I won't say you get used to it because it's always annoying when some four-legged herbivore midget horse thinks he's better than a human, but it does get easier to deal with in time. Especially when you have several achievements proving your own superiority. Ponies are arrogant? The guard asked. Yes, absolutely, Cot replied. Celestia's policies were purposefully designed to make ponies look down on other races. As far as most of the nobles in Canterlot are concerned, I'm barely above the intelligence level of a house cat. I don't get called a monkey anymore, but that's probably only because my body has been altered, I said. Back before I got turned into a noble, I had to deal with all kinds of nonsense from ponies who didn't think they had time for a human. Equestria's great if you're a pony, but there's a reason there aren't many other races who live here. That makes me feel a little better, at least, the hornless mare said. I'm glad the ponies at the tower weren't the only arrogant fools who dared to pretend they stood above you. I'm sure not, I said. If you tower goons were the only assholes I had to deal with in Equestria, my life would have been so much smoother. Why didn't you just move? The guard asked. I'm not sure if you heard about Luna's life-ruining confession where she admitted to doing a bunch of horrible things to me. But the reason I didn't just move is because Luna was doing a bunch of horrible things to me. Oh, and so was Celestia, for that matter. I mean, they forcefully turned me into a knight specifically so I wouldn't be able to run. Oh. Yet. Although both sisters have changed dramatically since I met them. I'm not particularly threatened by either anymore. Well, are you threatened by anything? The mayor from the tower asked. Yes. In terms of things that are actually alive and capable of interacting with the world, the three I'm most worried about are Pyrite, Tintiglia, and Arachne. I basically have a non-aggression pact with two of them, but they're very tenuous. And Tintiglia is completely insane, so anything goes with her. I don't even know who any of those are, the guard said. And I hope you never do. There are things normal ponies have no business knowing. If everyone knew what kinds of threats lurked in the dark places of the world, they'd be a lot more focused on building up defenses. Not that it would do them any good. I think the ponies could probably survive against the normal spiders, unless Arachne herself came out to play, Cot said. If she decided to come north, it would pretty much be game over. No, the normal spiders would devastate the ponies, Waterfall said. Arachne wouldn't even be needed. The pony morale would shatter after the first few towns were devoured. Most of them are cowards and even most of the ones that can fight would be incapable of doing so against the spiders. My sisters shared some of the memories of your journey. During the fight on the deck of your ship, the only useful ponies were the unicorns. That's basically how all the wars go, the hornless mare said. Or at least, that's how the history books in the tower records things. Yep, that's right, I said. 1,000 years ago, Celestia neutered the military because most of them sided with Nightmare Moon's coup attempt. Because of that, she's had to fight most of the major battles either herself or using the unicorns of the tower. In fact, the move that won the war against Nightmare Moon was the unicorns from the tower summoning a comet from space to destroy Luna's capital city, along with most of her army. And then when Luna attempted to return the favor, the tower unicorns captured the comet from the sky, mined it out, and then hung a big rock in the sky above their tower as a trophy. Should you really just be spilling state secrets like that? The mayor asked. No, it's cool. Celestia's working on uncensoring history, so all of this will probably come out eventually anyway. I'm going to love it when she finally tells everyone she has no idea how the sun moves. Wait, what? The guard shouted, stopping in his tracks. Yeah man, it's wild. Imagine my surprise when one of the first things I learned after I got here is that there's a tiny horse pretending to be a sun goddess. I nearly lost my shit, especially after I found out her name was actually Celestia. And then there was another one who pretended to move the moon named Luna. Isn't that hilarious? They had nearly 3/4 of the planet tricked into thinking they could move a literal fucking star just because they knew a little about equinoxes, eclipses, and astronomy. Of course, then I realized how dangerous it was that I knew the truth and it stopped being funny. They tricked us, the guard whispered. It hurts, doesn't it? The mayor asked. I looked just like you when I learned the truth. Oh, the tower knows. I ask. Indeed, though it's something only the seven had knowledge of. They call learning that fact an initiation rite, for it is one of the first truths of the world you learn as a leader of the tower, and it is possibly the most painful. Princess Celestia has spent at least 3,000 years building up an unimaginable lie. And yet, not even we at the tower know how the stars and planets truly do move, so we could never disprove her claims. It's a force the humans called gravity, I replied. Waterfall, would you like to explain? I'd be delighted. And so she began an elementary lesson on the invisible forces that make the world work. The guard was stuck in his own world, probably still trying to get over the fact that the mayor he dedicated his life to serving was ruling over him under false pretenses. Kot was paying attention, but spending her time braiding my hair. The tower mayor was listening, obviously enraptured with the idea of solving more of life's mysteries. Myself, I was wondering if I should just leave the pony guide and find someone else to take me home. I decided that if he didn't have his shit together by the time Waterfall's explanation was over, I'd poke him a few times. If he didn't respond, we'd just keep going without him. When Waterfall finished, the stallion was muttering something under his breath and staring into space. Is he gonna be okay? Kot asked, gently prodding him. If it comes to it, Waterfall can fix him, I said. I walked over and snapped a few times right in front of his eyes, making him flinch and finally come to. Hey, are you done freaking out yet? If you need more time, I can find another guide. Hey? I'm fine. What were you guys saying just now? Something about Princess Gravity. Princess Gravity? Kot asked. Of course, the princess. The dude looked completely and totally sincere. Oh. Can you give me a short description of Princess Gravity? I ask. Hey? My lady, you see her so often, though. She's a beautiful white alicorn with a cutie mark of the sun. She's the mare who makes the world go round. His smile cracked for a moment, but not very long. You were just talking about her. Holy shit, I did break him. Do you know the name Celestia? I've never heard it in my life, my lady. What do you mean, broke me? Waterfall, you're up, I said. Remove his memory of the last 5 minutes. Normally I would protest such a command, but to fix that which is broken, she started sliding forward. The guard's eyes went wide and he tried running, but I snatched his tail before he could get anywhere. Princess Gravity, save me. Please. That was all the time the poor fool had time to say before Waterfall performed a little snip-snip. Moments later, he was back on his feet. He took a quick look around before blushing slightly. Why are you all looking at me? Can you give me a quick list of the members of equestrian royalty as of 5 years ago? I ask. Hey? I mean, yes, of course. Princess Celestia, Princess Luna, Princess Cadance, Prince Blue Blood, Prince Shining Armor, and I don't think Princess Skyla was born yet. Although I'm also not sure how long it's been since Prince Shining Armor married. Time sure does fly, hey. It sure does, I said. Let's get moving again. And just like that, we left his horrific mental trauma in the dust. Still, though. This might be a bigger problem than I thought. Is everyone gonna react like that when they find out? That depends on how the topic is approached, likely, Waterfall said. If it's flippantly thrown into a conversation like it's some kind of comedy routine, it might be slightly more traumatizing. Most of those who are capable of being leaders of the tower have minds strong enough to handle such information, so I can safely say nothing of the sort has ever happened to any of us. I'll have to talk it over with Celestia. We might need to rethink how we release the information. Ponies really are weak, Kot whispered disdainfully. I'm pretty sure I was the only one who heard it. To be honest, I couldn't disagree. When we got back to the common area, I was momentarily alarmed by the pall of darkness clouding one of the corners of the room. Then I saw that it was caused by Luna. She had a very large section mostly to herself with a huge no ponies land all around her. At the moment, she was eating with Zecora. Unfortunately, her eyes locked on mine as soon as I saw her. That meant I couldn't leave without at least saying hi. I really didn't want to have to deal with her again so soon, but I guess that's life for you. I think I can borrow my vassal's power to get home, after all, I said. I'll ask Luna to ferry us back. You can join your friends and relax. Are you sure, my lady? The guard asked. I certainly don't mind. Luna would insist. She's devoted. Thank you for taking us this far. It was a delight, my lady. Feel free to call any of us if you need help in the future. Of course. And Waterfall, thanks for showing us to Zecora's lab. Now we can actually ask permission for what we took. Whenever you come back, feel free to ask for me again, Waterfall said. Our two guides departed, leaving us to walk over to the loneliest corner ever. What are you going to do if she says no? The wannabe horny mare asked as we walked. What makes you think I'll give her the option of saying no? Greetings once more, my lady, Luna said when we were at a socially acceptable distance. I wasn't aware you were coming to the fort today. I have a really bad habit of getting sidetracked. Zecora, do you mind if I borrow one of your horns to help a disabled old mare? You say borrow. I believe you mean take. Look at her. She's old and rickety. You'll obviously outlast her and I doubt she'll care if you take it back when she's done. That one may have been a little too far, Kot whispered as everyone else stared at me in silence. Fine. Do you mind if I take one of your horns to help a disabled old mare? The loot from a battle belongs to the chieftain first and foremost, does it not? Zecora asked. Take what you like, my lady. Cool. How's progress on clearing out the undead in the bunker? Slow but steady, Zecora replied. Thank you for allowing me to take the time to do this properly. I truly, honestly think that helping the dead pass on will make the world a better place. Given what I know of the world, I'm inclined to agree, I said. From my understanding, the war that eradicated humanity killed so many people at once that a large number of souls got stuck on this side. That's the reason so many cities are in the same place and have very similar names. Zecora, for the sake of eradicating the bullshit puna naming system, you need to help all the dead pass on. That means taking a few apprentices. The skills I possess can't be taught to just anyone. I have every intention of taking an apprentice as soon as I find one who can and is willing to learn. Luna, can you learn to work with the spooky scaries instead of eating them for magical power? I feel like turning them into magical power would be a faster and easier way of eradicating the puna naming system you detest so much, my lady. If we hunt down all of those troublesome spirits, wouldn't that solve the issue? Blaze, activate Luna's empathy for me. Her eyes lit up orange and she scoffed. Why should we feel empathy for the dead? Blaze asked. Aren't you supposed to be the honorable warrior type? Doesn't that imply a sense of spirituality? Let me rephrase that, then, he said. Why should I feel empathy for convenient sources of easy yet incredible power? I wish you knew what movies were so you could understand how much like a stereotypical villain you sound like right now. Literally everybody knows that convenient sources of easy yet incredible power are always either cursed or have a massive or even fatal downside that's not immediately apparent. The only people who agree to use cursed and damned souls as sources of power, assuming other options are presented, are obviously the bad guys. My lady, aren't you planning on creating a blood gem farm using captured monsters? Cod asked. Monsters aren't sapient. Any curse or downside I get from that won't be as big of a deal. So, I guess Luna's out as an apprentice. How will you know when you find the right person? I can tell by what's around them, Zecora said. Those who have a connection to the other side are often surrounded by spirits. I've seen a few before, but none that were in a position to become an apprentice. Taya could learn it, since she's been so heavily immersed in death. Wait, is this something you're born with or something that you unlock by doing certain things? I ask. It could be either, Zecora replied with a shrug. I was born with a connection. The voices kept me company at all times and helped raise me. Those like Taya have forced the connection through bloodshed or repeated contact with the other side. Wouldn't that also apply to me? I ask. Without a soul, you couldn't connect without assistance, Zecora said. That said, not having a soul does give benefits. For example, you could likely actually go to the other side. Or at least, a few of them. Wait, I can teleport to heaven. Who knows? Zecora asked with a shrug. I just know that objects can pass back and forth. In this particular case, object refers to anything lacking a soul. The smaller it is, the more likely it is to happen by chance. That means things like bits, socks, and quills get sucked in a lot more often than planets. It also means that, given the right conditions, you could go through. We need to hurry up and find those conditions so I can abandon this hell and chill in paradise for eternity. How do you like your armor? Luna finally asked, looking at the runic mail I was wearing. It's much nicer than a dress. Oh, that reminds me. Caught, your arm. She held out one of her paws, so I gripped it and used a knife to slice into her flesh. As soon as her blood started dropping, the runes on my armor lit up. There, you did get to be first. You're welcome. Thank you for the honor, my lady, Caught whispered, clutching at her bleeding arm. Tisk, lucky, Luna muttered. Her horn lit up and Caught's blood ceased falling. I'm next. She offered up one of her hooves, so I took it and sliced her open next. I advise you to order the guards around us to offer up a sacrifice as well. Good idea. I turned around to face the rest of the room. Several guards were staring at me in horror. I grinned. Everybody listen up. I called out. At this point, they all knew what I sounded like, so everyone shut up and looked over to me. Their eyes all widened when they saw the bloody knife in my hand. The armor I'm wearing grows more powerful the more sources of blood I have. I'm looking for volunteers only to let me cut them just a little, whereupon you'll be healed almost immediately by Luna. You promise it won't steal our souls? One of the less cowardly guards asked. Background characters don't have souls. Wait, Luna, does this armor steal souls? No, just life force. I promise this armor doesn't steal souls, I said. I wasn't expecting it, but most of the guards in the room actually volunteered. In fact, a few got a lot more into it than I liked and had to be dragged off by their friends. Apparently being cut on by a big strong predator is a fetish for some stallions. By the time I finished, the runes were all glowing dull red, making my armor look surprisingly futuristic. If only it were chrome, I muttered. You want armor made of chrome? Luna asked, tilting her head. Well, everything is made of chrome in the future, from what I hear. Anyway, I think that was the last of the volunteers. Luna, can you help ferry us home? It shouldn't take but a moment, unless I get sidetracked again. Of course, my lady. Caught started to reach for my arm, but Luna's magic stopped her. Caught, be extremely wary about touching Our Lady right now. The armor is granting her more strength than usual, so it's entirely possible she'll hurt you on accident. That's a risk I'll happily accept, Caught replied. Luna shrugged and released her, allowing Caught to wrap her arm around mine. I'll do my best to be careful. Let me see, I lifted my arm up. Cot held on tighter, so I easily pulled her into the air. Wow, yeah, I'm a lot stronger than I should be. I don't think I could just pick you up like this before. Say, do you think something like a mace might be better to use than a sword, with the extra strength? I set Cot back down, but she didn't release her tight grip. If you're going to cross-train with any melee weapon, it should be a pole arm of some kind, Luna said. You didn't seem to like the bardic I made you. Maybe a halberd or a spear. If you're talking about for use while riding you, I'd prefer either a spear or a naginata. A spear would be more ideal, Luna said. In a pitched melee, you might not have as much room to swing, but stabbing should pose no problem. And once you learn enough, you can use a spear to cut nearly the same as a sword can. All fair points. The last fight I had with Nestorats showed me that I really don't want to get too close to my opponents, especially when they're literally made of fire. Keeping them at spear point will be better than keeping them at sword point. Do you know any runes for one? I don't know any special runic combinations, but I can give one a few special effects. It might take us a while to find enough chrome for it, but I promise. I was joking about the chrome. Use whatever's best. And thank you. Now let's go home. As you wish, my lady. Before you go, I wanted to ask something of you, Zecora said. Go for it, I replied. Do you remember the potions of magic regeneration I created, the ones that Luna praised as revolutionary? Yes. I have enough supplies to create one more batch of those potions. I wanted permission to give them to Jonathan to see if he can duplicate them. Granted. However, don't tell him what they're for. I don't trust that thing. I want a few cards up my sleeves it doesn't know about. Understood. For now, I'll keep the recipe a secret. We can discuss the issue again if mass production becomes possible. Agreed. If it gets to that point, let me know and we'll talk about it. You discovered a potion that restores magic, the old mare quietly asked. I did, Zecora said with a nod. Perhaps living so long in the tower truly was a mistake, the mare whispered, hanging her head. Given that you're resorting to borrowing a dead unicorn's horn, you should have realized this sooner. The things happening around me are probably a special case, I said. I doubt there are many others out there conquering ancient human ruins and looting them dry. Or exploring the world enough to find all the ingredients necessary for rare potions. Oh, Zecora, does that potion help restore real magic, or just fake unicorn magic? Real magic doesn't need restoration, Luna said. Using it just makes you tired. Fake unicorn magic uses the horn and a few other internal things as catalysts, so potions can actually help restore it. Fake unicorn magic, the mare said, tilting her head. I know Athena and Hera were able to do magic without a horn, but to call what we do fake seems unfair. Fake is definitely the wrong word, Luna confirmed, with a nod. It's less that the magic is fake and more that it uses a catalyst to accomplish what would normally require sheer force of will. That means it's considerably easier. It also limits what you can do, because not all magic can be accomplished with just internal catalysts. Thus, unicorn magic is weaker and less versatile than true magic. But since that was the goal, it's ideal. Wait, the goal was to make it weaker, the mare asked. Obviously, I said. Celestia didn't want to risk anyone becoming more powerful than she was, so she had to censor the history of true magic. I think the official reason was the founding of Equestria, though. After Groger chased the ponies from the area around the Crystal Empire by fixing the environment, Celestia was wary of anyone doing any more big changes that might require her ponies to have another mass migration. Luna probably knows a lot more than I do, though. I didn't realize Groger fixed the environment, Luna said. I thought he broke it to chase the ponies out. Nope. The North and South Poles are supposed to be cold. It looks like Groger is going around the world, trying to fix macro issues like weather problems and curses on areas of land. Sometime after fixing the North Pole, it looks like he went to the South Pole to chase down leads on all the evil undead energy that was gathering in the human ruins there. But he couldn't get inside because the ruins were sealed, so it seems he decided to go to Tartarus to hit up the Lake of Magic. I don't know if he's trying to purify Discord's corruption on the lake or if he's trying to use the lake for a power boost in order to gain access to the human ruins, though. I'll have to ask when we invade. With luck, we can get him to help fix the curse on the Middle East, too. More human ruins. A Lake of Magic. A curse on the Middle East. A possibly good lich, the mayor from the tower was muttering a bunch of stuff, but we all ignored her. Why would a lich be doing all of that? Luna slowly asked. That's something else I want to ask him. My two thoughts are that he became a lich to have more time to fix problems, or after becoming a lich, he grew bored and decided to do some good in the world. Either way, that's something else we can ask. Anyway, we got way off track. Luna, we're leaving. Understood, my lady. She finally stood and began walking to the teleport circle. We followed, though Zekora had to poke the mare to get her to start walking. Once everyone was in place, Luna's horn lit up and we appeared back on the surface. From there, it was just a short walk back to the other teleport circle, and then everyone but Luna was back home. End of Chapter 203.